Alright guys, welcome back, and we're going to be looking at some very simple examples now that have direct relation to bearings in trigonometry. So let's take a look at this question here. Example 1, it says a ship is on a bearing of 162 degrees from a port. Now remember in our notes we said the critical significance of this word from. And it says a ship is on a bearing of 162 degrees from a port. Illustrate using a diagram. A very simple question. And again, I'm going to just emphasize the importance of the compass again, because this is going to play a big role in our question. So I'm just going to put this there for now. All right. And proceed with the solution to this question. So it says here, again, in answering bearings in trigonometry question, you only need a straight edge and a pencil. I'm only using a marker to emphasize so you guys can see it. But you only need a straight edge. Again, there's no protractor that is needed in this topic. No protractor whatsoever. Just a straight edge and a pencil. So it says a ship is on a bearing of 162 degrees from a port. So because it says from a port, I'm going to put a dot that represents the port. So I'm just going to indicate a dot on the paper, right? Just a dot, and P for port. And through this dot, I'm going to draw a north line. All right? So through this dot, I'm going to draw a north line. So, and a north line must be vertical. All right? So I'm just going to draw a north line just like that. And I'm just going to emphasize that it's important for you to have this piece here. Not necessarily for this question, but in more slightly more complicated questions, this is going to play a big role. So don't stop it on the point. Carry it on, all right, as practice. So I'm just going to indicate that this is our north line. As simple as that. And it says the ship is on a bearing of 162 degrees. Now you don't need any protractor. But what you do need to do is to correctly estimate where 162 degrees is. And that's where this guy comes in. So 162 degrees definitely would not be here. It would not be here. It would not be here. 162 degrees would lie between 135 degrees and 160. So what they need is just an estimate, but it must be correct. A correct estimate of where the 162 degrees is. And this is where the ship would be. So clearly, 162 degrees is somewhere down here. It doesn't matter how close to the line or far away from the line. It just needs to be a realistic estimate of where the ship is. And clearly the ship is 162 degrees from the port. So I'm going to indicate S for ship. And what I'm going to do now is connect the ship to the port, just like this. Using a straight edge, no freehand drawing whatsoever. If you give me a freehand drawing, there's no marks for that. And of course now, we have to indicate the bearing. And the bearing is measured from the north line. It doesn't matter whether you start here, here, here. It doesn't really matter, as long as it's not too close here, because what you want to say is the arc. And I'm going to be putting the angle, in this particular question, the angle in the arc. So bearing is measured from the north line in a clockwise direction, coming around, and it stops on the line that connects the ship to the port, and it's 162 degrees. So I'm just going to indicate 162 degrees. So this diagram would be the illustration to this question that was asked. Okay, so a ship is on a bearing of 162 degrees from a port. First thing you do is put a dot that represents a port, because it says from a port. Okay, sometimes the question might not actually use the word from, but based on what you're reading, you must know where the ship is leaving from. So the ship is leaving from a port. So a dot is the first thing we do on the paper that represents a port. Draw a north line, which is a vertical or perpendicular line through the point, which is a port. Indicate N for north. Takes the marks for all of this. And then using the compass rules, correctly estimate where 162 degrees would be, which is why I say you need this. So make a little sketch of this before you answer any bearings in trigonometry question. And then we estimated 162 degrees to be there. And then we put the S there for the ship, and then completed the diagram. You must indicate the bearings at all time from a north line in a clockwise direction. All right. So this will be the solution to example 1. Let's take a look at another example. And again, I'm leaving the compass rose because it's my tool that I need. Okay, so this one says now a tank is on a bearing of 0.33 degrees from an army base. So this one says a tank is on a bearing of 0.33 degrees from an army base. Illustrate using a diagram. So let's tackle this one quickly. So it says the tank is on a bearing of 0.33 degrees from an army base. So the army base, I'm just going to indicate A for army base. And again, a north line must come through that point, and the north line must be vertical. So I'm just going to indicate that north line, and again, this part is going to be relevant in more complicated questions. So do not stop the line on this point. Carry it on. So we have the army base and the north line. Now all we need to do is find out where the tank is, which is on a bearing of 0.33 degrees, and clearly a bearing of 0.33 degrees will be somewhere in this area. So it means then that the tank is somewhere up here. So I just simply need to indicate that up here is where the tank is. And then what I'm going to do now is connect the tank to the army base, which is like this. And wrap it up now with the bearing. Again, bearing is measured from the north line in a clockwise direction. And of course that bearing is 0.33 degrees. It's as simple as that. Nothing fancy, but it must be an accurate illustration of the information being relayed to us. So I'm going to remove this now. And let's take a look at example 3. Again, I am leaving the compass rose because it's a critical instrument or tool that I'm going to use to answer my questions without making any errors. All right, let's take a look at question 3, or example 3. It says a shark is 15 meters. A shark is 15 meters northwest of a man. Illustrate using a diagram. So let's tackle this one now. So a shark is 50 meters northwest of a man. So what we need to do is, and in my head I have an idea where northwest is, it's going this way. So I need to know where to put my dot sometime. So you know where northwest is. You just glimpse the compass and say, oh, you're going to go this way. So can't put a point here on the page. So you want to put it over here. All right. So I'm going to put a point that represents the man. I'm going to draw a north line through that point that represents the man. North line must be vertical, don't slant it, must be vertical. So I'm going to do that. And it says the shark is 15 meters northwest. 15 meters northwest. So northwest is here, so that means that the shark is somewhere up here. So I'm just going to indicate this is where the shark is. And then I'm going to connect the man, a line that connects the shark to the man. Nothing fancy, but it must be an accurate illustration. And then, of course, we need to put in that bearing that represent. Now, very often students make the mistake of doing this. I'm going in that direction. Though this direction is anti-clockwise. Anti-clockwise. And of course, using the compass rose, you notice that northwest has a bearing of 315 degrees. So that's a massive angle. So again, to go this way would be incorrect. And 315 degrees could never be this piece of angle anyway. So bearing is measured from the north line in a clockwise direction going around, and it stops on the line that connects the 2 points, which in this case is the man and the shark. Now, this is a massive angle, so I'm not going to put it inside here to cause any confusion, because in more complicated questions, you're going to need to find angles at different parts in the diagram. So I'm going to definitely put the 315 degrees outside, all right, to indicate that's the bearing, all right. You're going to see why I do these things when we come to more complicated questions in another session, okay. So that would be the bearing of the man from the shark. And of course, they also told us that the shark is 15 meters northwest of the man. Now this line would represent the distance between the shark and the man, so clearly the 15 meters is going to go right there. So we're just going to put the 15 meters right there. And that would be full marks for a diagram if you're asked this question in the exam. Alright, now of course CXC don't normally ask these simple questions. They normally ask questions that involve two north lines in it, but regardless, they could ask this question. Alright, so this will be the solution to example 3, so please take note. And again, the significance of this in answering the questions, very, very helpful tool. So please ensure that you take the recommendation and always have a sketch of this before you start any questions in bearings in trigonometry. I hope you guys found this video insightful, and I'll see you guys on the next video.